Okay, we got this request. Would you do a quick tip on thumb pencil sighting measurements? I've always had difficulty in estimating by sight how many times a smaller line goes into a larger one if there are leftover fractions. And then she goes ahead and says, my art school has said I did well enough in just drawing without sighting, and that's pretty important too. Okay, let's do some measuring. All right, there are three variations on this. One is the original, it was called sight sizing, and sight sizing, and people still use it in the classical schools, the classical ateliers, and so it's really a very exact way of drawing, the original sight sizing. And the way that works, we're not going to do that here, I'm going to show you a variation of that, but the way that works is, and imagine this, you're standing in front of your easel. Right aligned with your easel is your subject, and this really works well for still life and for doing portraits. So your subject is aligned with your, pretty much aligned with your easel, so you have them side by side there. Then you step back and you find a place. You know that like a wide-angle photo lens works on a camera, the closer we pull things to us, the larger they appear. The further we push them away from us, the smaller they appear. With that in mind, you step back until you can find a place where when you measure, you can take the width or you could take the height. A lot of people start with the height. But when you use a pencil like this, using the top of the pencil and sometimes it's the finger here or sometimes it's the thumb here. When you find a place where the entire image you want to put on your canvas from here to here, actually when you pull your pencil over, it aligns with your canvas. That creates the same size you're looking at, and that's why it's called size sighting. At that point, you put a mark on the floor in front of where your toes are going to go, because that's where you always have to step back to take measurements. That's the original sight sizing. It's a little bit of a stiff way of drawing, but it's a very accurate way of drawing, and it's good for training you how to see or how to compare sizes. Well, that's not what we're going to do, but I wanted to explain that to you. A variation of that is what's called the pencil and thumb sighting. And what that is wherever you are, you're simply getting your information by using this method. You're simply getting the information of how tall something is compared to how wide it is. I said that backwards. Well, I might not have if it were like a flat box or something like that. Anyway, you're comparing two sizes. Now, there's an important technique or way of, there are 5 different things, let me say it that way, that you need to master in order to make this work for you when you're working from the real thing in the still life. We call it in plain air inside or in plain air outside. If you're doing a landscape, if you're working with a landscape outside, this works very, very well. Or if you're working still life or whatever inside. So you're getting the information, but in order for that information to work for you, you have to have your arm fully extended. Now, when you're doing this kind of sight measurement, if you are tempted to pull your arm in, as you forget, and some people will do this, they'll pull the arm, you're going to get bad information because this will appear larger than this does. So it's very important when you're using this method, it's very important that you extend your arm fully, just like this. So that's the first thing. The next thing is the best way to grip your pencil is with your 4 fingers, like I've got here. Now, you grip your 4 fingers and then your thumb is free, like this, to take the measurement. You'll see, I'm going to show you how to do that in just a moment. So you use your thumb as a gauge so that the top of whatever you're looking at aligns with the top of the pencil. And then you adjust your thumb, bringing your thumb down just like this. You adjust your thumb to locate the bottom or the other side. Or if you're turning it horizontal like this, one side, this would represent one side. This would be aligned with one side, and then your thumb would be aligned with wherever you see the other side, like this. So keeping the arm fully extended is very important if you're going to get correct information. And then the way you hold the pencil. You'll find your own variation on how to hold the pencil. Then the other thing is, in order for this to work, you have to close one eye. Now try this, do this for me. Look straight at my image. Now close one eye and you'll find that my image has shifted. Okay, open the eye and close the other. Did you see that my image shifted to the other side? That's the reason you need to close one eye and close the same eye every time. Otherwise, you're going to get a shift in size. You see how important these things are? The way we see causes us to see the relationship of size. And so we're careful about these kinds of things when we're doing this little measurement technique I'm going to show you. Then it's going to work for you. If you're not careful, if you don't extend your arm right, if you don't have one eye closed, you're going to mess up. And there's another thing that's going to cause you to mess up, and that is, and it happens unconsciously, you don't even realize it, but when you're taking the size of something, you might allow your pencil to tilt forward. And I'll do this sideways for you. Say, pretend my eyes are over here. And you might allow your pencil to tilt this way, or you might allow it to tilt that way without even realizing you're doing it. You've got to be very, very careful. The pencil should always be aligned like a windshield wiper. Well, a windshield wiper if the windshield were absolutely vertical, horizontal. Always keep it, and that's another reason you're more likely, when you have your arm extended, you're more likely to be able to align that pencil. Keep it straight up. Never avoid doing that. Avoid allowing your pencil to tilt either forward or backward. It's a very strong temptation. And then the other thing is how to measure. Now, but in order for the measurement to be right, these skills must be mastered, so that takes lots of practice. So some of you will learn that a whole lot faster than others, but it takes practice like everything else. Now I want to show you how the sight sizing, well, this is not sight sizing, this is the thumb pencil sizing. I want to show you how that works now on an actual object. Alright, so now if you have an image, this is a good kind of image to practice this with. If you practice with an image that doesn't have a whole lot of bends and turns in it, it makes it a lot easier for you to get the thing down pat before you go to more complex images. Okay, so it's a good idea before you make any marks on your paper, it's a good idea to to kind of study the proportions. And one way to do that is to get, if you're looking at the height to the width, find the width first. Now I'll show you why. So I'm going to just ease my pencil in here, and I'm going to hold let my thumb be my guide. Let's turn this around and make it easier. Okay. Now we're going to ease the pencil in like this, and I want to find the width of that. And if I hold my pencil about right there, okay, there's the width. Now, if I carefully turn, I can, it was not moving my thumb, but I carefully turn now and compare the height to the width. What do I have? I see that the height is longer than the width. Then how do I know how much longer it is? Well, one way to do that is to, let me just take this other finger and show you. One way to do that is to take another finger. Well, let's do it on this side. Okay, let's get it aligned again, like this. If you take a finger like that, let's go back up to the top, here is that difference right there. So we could, let's turn it around like that. So we could take that difference and we could walk it up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could see that about 4 to 5 is that difference. It's about 4, well, you might say it's about 4/5. You take the width to the height. It's about 4/5. Now this person asked about fractions. If you try to be really precise about fractions on this kind of measurement, it's going to throw you off. You shouldn't be that precise. You're going to get tight in your drawing. Is going to be tight, and that's no payoff. Guess about the fractions. Your guess is going to guide you. Now, an easier way to do that, there are several ways you can do that. One, you could take the height first. Let's see. Let's get the height. All right, this here, there we go. The top of the jug aligned. Let's get this thumb moving here. the top of the jug aligned. There we go, right there. And then the bottom, the thumb is on the bottom. Now I can do it this way. You see, I get the same thing. Another way that you could do that to maybe make it a little bit easier is to start with a smaller part. All right, and so now I'm using my finger here because it's a little bit easier to hold. You can use I tend to, confess, I tend to use my forefinger to do my measurement, whereas most people tend to use their thumb. So you could use your thumb or your forefinger, either one, as long as you use one and you know that's your marker. So if I hold it out like that and take this one and use my finger like that, then I could go over here and I see, okay, its width is twice the bottom in length, in width. This is 2 times the bottom. That's information. Then I'll go up here and I'll say, okay, about right there, it's the same width as that. And then I can turn here and I can see that part is about the same width. Now, you can do all kinds of comparisons. Thing is to not try to get too mathematical. All right, now what I would like to show you can see how that works there. The main thing is to show you with the arm fully extended and all the other things I showed you before, is to find ways to compare sizes. So you find a smaller size and you can compare it to other small sizes, or you can see how many, 1, 2, or let's put it this way, 1, 2, 3. You can find how many of the smaller sizes are actually make up the various parts of that vase. Now what I'd like to do next is to take you to another position here and show you how to plot just a very quick gesture drawing and to get those sizes working for you. Okay, so let's see if I can do that here. I'm pretty close to the jug. Now the one thing is, if you have a relatively large object like this, you have to stand back. If you get too close, it's not going to fit on your pencil. However, you could use a longer or a different kind of a gauge. You could use something like these little skewers. These little barbecue skewers are great for finding size, being the size finder. And so you see, if I use this little barbecue skewer like this, I can find it very easily. Well, you can't see that because now you don't have my point of view. You had my point of view when I was showing you how this works, but now you don't have my point of view, so you sort of have to trust what I'm discovering. Okay, so to stay in that, I'm going to have to use a pencil because it's going to make it easier to switch back and forth. So that means I'm going to stand back. Now, whatever information I receive, I don't have to make it any particular size here. That's a good reason for finding that information, is that you can make it any size you want to. And I'm going to show you how that works. So I'm standing here. Now from my point of view, you can't tell what I'm seeing. I'm going to have to stand back even further. You can't even see me, but maybe you can see. You barely can see the pencil. Is that going to work? From my point of view, I'll get it a little bit closer here. Now, from my point of view, if I take the measurement of the foot of that vase, we already got that information, but just as, and then I come up, I see that it's twice as wide, the belly is twice as wide as the foot. And the next thing I want to find out is how tall is it in relation to the foot. So before I do that, I'm going to make myself a standard. And that is, my standard is going to be the width of the foot. And so I'm going to make it a relatively small. And I don't know if you can see, I hope you can see that. I'll make that drawing. Yeah, I'll show it to you when we're finished. This makes it easier for me to do, so you won't see exactly what I'm doing here. But, so that's my standard. That's the measurement from here to here. That's the measurement I'm going to use for everything else in there. Now that's important with this method of drawing, is to find that standard. It could be anywhere. It could be, well, you decide, but make it a place that's obvious so that you can always go back to it. So this equals this. All right. Now what I want to do is find out how tall that jug is. And so again, see, I'm extending my arm. You can't see it all, but it's all right. I'm extending my arm, and now I'm going to turn this vertically, and I'm going to count. Now, how am I going to do that and be sure I've got it right? As long as you're in the ballpark, you're good. So that's about to the center. 1, 2, 3. All right, my standard is this. So I don't make a mark that's this long. I make a mark that's 3 times this. So I can actually do this. I can actually take that measurement with my pencil, and I can go up my paper. 1, 2, 3, and that is the top of the jug. Now, everything else is going to be built on that standard. So now, if I go up, I can take the measurement again to be sure it doesn't matter where I stand as long as I'm seeing it right. I take that measurement again. Now I want to find out what is the width of the lip. And as I look at it, the width of the lip is a little bit wider than half that. So that means a little bit wider than half that would be about right here. And that is how wide that lip goes, about right there. Now, if I make them, because that is a symmetrical shape, if I make that shape, move that over just a little, if I make a straight line going through there, I can always locate it. So that means that the lip of that jug, and see, I'm drawing it now, the lip of that jug is that wide. All right, now if I want to, as I'm coming down, I can come down one side. If that most narrow part, how wide is that most narrow part is compared with this? All right, so I'll take that again, and then I measure here, and I see it's less than half. Now see, you don't have to deal with fractions. To say a little more than half, a little less than half, that's a whole lot better. If you try to deal with fractions, then you're going to get, it's going to tighten you up. So don't worry about fractions. Just say, if you can find half, less than half, you can usually see, your eyes will use to tell you what a half is or what a third is. And so it's either a little more or a little less. That's all you need to know. You can estimate it and you're going to be fine. Alright, so let's go back to that. I said less than half. So I'll go here, find the half of that, and then that neck. Oh, did I do it? I'm sorry, I did it that way. Less than half the width of the mouth itself. All right, less than half. So I go here. This is the standard for that. So I go here. I see that less than half would be a little bit like that, and that's the mark I need to make, just like that. Or you can simply eyeball it, simply visualize it as less than half, and from that point I can make the marks. I took that down a little bit far. It really should stop about right there. Okay, now you can do that same thing as you're moving down. Now to find the width of the whole thing, that's the fat part, and that width really starts about right here somewhere. So its width is a little lower down than halfway. Alright, now find that width of the fattest part. I'm going to use my standard, this foot right here. I'm going to use that standard. I'm going to find it right here with my pencil and my finger instead of my thumb, whatever. I could use either one, doesn't matter. Alright, now I'm going to walk it across. Now just holding it here so that my finger, this part right here, touches the edge, or my thumb, I could use either one as I said before, touches the edge. I can see that's about halfway across. It's a little bit less than halfway across. So the width of that thing, where it's the fattest, is about twice this. Alright, so here's what I do. It's maybe a little bit more than twice that. So this is what I do. And the first mark goes right here. And then take that one exact and go to the second mark goes right here. Now from there I should be able, okay, and if you do them parallel like this, do the lines parallel. Oh, this moves in. Oh, I see that. I see how this moves in a little bit here, curves out a little bit there, moves in a little bit here, curves out a little bit there. And then what else do we need to do? Okay, we have a fluting. It flutes out as it goes down the neck. All right, now let's take a measurement there. I'm going to go back to my standard, which is the foot right here. Now make that mark. Now come up here. Now let's see, where do I want to take that? Yes, right around this little band. You can always find marks that you can call them landmarks, that you can compare with. This is about the same width as this, and so that's a good place to take that. So I'll just take the width here, and I'll go up about right there, and that's where that goes, about right here. And so, looking at the jug now, I can just let it taper down like that, and I can get a fairly good representation of the jug I'm looking at. Okay, I said just a little gesture drawing. You can always double check it. Now I made it, and now I'm seeing that needs to drop down a little bit lower, and I'm seeing, okay, that one's dropping down just about enough. So got a fairly good representation of the shape of that jug. Okay, expect it to take a little practice for all these things to work for you, so that you can get your drawing pretty much in proportion to the shape you're working from. Practice more. The more you practice with it, the more comfortable you'll become with it. And you'll find then, don't feel that you've always got to use measuring like this. You don't. Your eyes tell you the truth most of the time, if you pay attention to your eyes. But when you're out in your plein air painting, this is a good time to practice this. But let me warn you about something. You want your proportions to be right, but you don't want to sacrifice the life of your drawing to measuring. Now you see many instances, especially on YouTube, where people are measuring everything to get them absolutely precise. And then you'll notice the drawing is accurate, but the drawing is dead. So don't ever sacrifice your drawing to trying to be precise and exact. At the same time, this is just a tool for you to use in order to aid you in finding proportions when you need them. Be sure and view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell, so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianneMize.com, where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.